understood much about the brotherhood. You know, the Army, we're all brothers. Or the Marines, they're all brothers until after Eric joined. And now you see somebody from the Army and think of them as family. Some people have addictions to drugs and alcohol, but I fell into a sexual addiction. And because of that, I did things that I'm not proud of that led me to prison.
Chapter 8, verses 31 through 38.
To the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, "Behold, in my teaching you really are my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free."
So these are some pretty strong words of Jesus as he speaks to these Pharisees and religious rulers.
I came from a pretty dysfunctional childhood, a lot of emotional, physical abuse, and I took all that and went out into society and started drinking and drugging, just led a rageful life. And in 1975, I got sober, but I didn't deal with all the wounds and stuff I was carrying around. I stayed sober for 18 years, and then I had a nervous breakdown, and my marriage fell apart, and I ended up having an altercation with someone. I'd never been in trouble before, and I shot them in the leg, and I was charged with attempted murder and felony firearm.
I am an individual that's been to prison 7 times. The main reason why is because I never really had anywhere that was stable to stay. It was always, I would move into homes and with people that were using drugs, and I didn't have a choice. You know, I would get out, be on parole, and whatever goes in that house, that's what had to go. And so I asked God to take me away from this thing. I said, Lord, I just said a little silent prayer. I said, Lord, I'm getting tired of this life. If you have something more for me, please just give it to me. And ironically, that night, I got arrested for grand theft auto.
If somebody were to ask you to describe a disciple of Christ, a follower of Jesus, what would you say?
By trusting our lives to him. No matter what comes our way, he'll see us through it. So,
Alpha Prison Ministries is a Christian ministry with the purpose to evangelize and disciple men who happen to be prisoners and former inmates. We do that in 3 ways. Our first is in-prison Bible studies. 160 men every week in Bible studies throughout Southwest Michigan, run by our 50 to 60 volunteers who go in every week with the express purpose of getting men, inmates, into the Bible for themselves, to study the Bible for themselves, one-on-one with our volunteers.
Alpha Ministries is a bit different than, I think, a lot of the services in prison because it's not a pastor coming in, giving a message. Because it's one-on-one, you get to learn about the men's lives. You ask about their families, their children, their struggles, which are often the same as your own, just the names are different. God has a plan, and it's a good plan for each one of their lives, and we just try to help them see what that might be. There is another way than what the world would tell them, and they all want that. They often don't know how to allow that to happen in their lives. So we try to give them hope in a different direction than what the world would have them believe.
the volunteers from Alpha would come in on Monday nights, and they would share themselves with us. And as time went on, I got to realize that as they were coming in, that was Jesus coming into the prisons to minister to us. And that showed me that they loved us and they cared, and it didn't matter to them what our sin was, what our crime was. And that was the love of God, and that gave me hope. And I learned that God actually forgave me. And it was a beautiful thing, you know, to know that we're forgiven, you know, and that we're loved.
Amen. Amen.
While I was incarcerated during that time, I had a son that was Eric. He was serving in Iraq. And there was a night I was sleeping and I seen this vision in my dreams that there was an explosion. And I think God was trying to let me know that there was bad news coming. I didn't become angry and bitter with God because, again, I knew that's what Satan wanted me to do. The volunteers, again, they were there for me to give me support and to help me understand God wasn't punishing me by taking my son's life. And that's part of war. This was a gift from our neighbors from across the street. It was my favorite photo of him because it showed his bright blue eyes. I hang it out for special occasions. Now I go on living knowing that someday I'll see my boy again. So I want to live my life not only for God, but in memory of my son. And that's my boy. I miss him.
All right, let's start. Today is going to be a special day, okay? As you know, I was in prison at one time, and after I got out, I went to a place called Alpha Prison Ministries, and I stayed there as a resident for 14 months.
The second way we evangelize and disciple men, we have transitional housing here in Grand Rapids. We have room for 11 former inmates to come here to Grand Rapids to move into one of our transitional houses, to get connected with the church, to find work, and to get their feet firmly established on solid ground, financially, socially, and spiritually.
Well, for me, Alpha Prison Ministries was a place to make a safe landing because I did a lot of time confined over 11 years in prison. And everybody that does time in prison, especially when you do it a long time, is you wonder what's going to happen when you get out. It's kind of scary. And so it's kind of like the difference between taking a jet plane and doing a high-speed dive or taking a glider and kind of glide back into society. Amazing grace. I said, sometimes people just need another chance because we all make mistakes, you know? And it was the only time I was ever in trouble, so. Well, maybe that's what God was doing, was preparing me to come out here and use the music and stuff to help others, you know. One of the things I do is every Tuesday morning I do a praise and worship group. And for me, it's kind of a kick once again. You know, here I am, an ex-con, working with seniors in a praise and worship group. Now, who would have ever thought that that would ever happen? Thank you, everybody.
Alpha Prison Ministry, for me, was definitely a fresh start. The rules at Alpha that are stated with Alpha is that you will not have no drugs, you will not have people coming in there and the things like that. But then when you go back to my old houses, that was the rule of play. You can do all them things. But at Alpha, because it was so important for me to stay there, and I knew this was my last chance, I started to abide by those rules. That kind of conditioned me to be the man that I am today.
So Jesus says that if you abide in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. That is a characteristic of being a follower of Jesus. We are in his word and we're obeying it. And the third way we evangelize and disciple men is mentoring relationships. We will team up a former inmate with a more mature Christian who is a step or two ahead of him in the Christian life, and form a friendship to help that former inmate, again, transition back into society in a safe, secure relationship with one of our mentors.
James and I have developed such a relationship. Some people can say it's uncanny. We are so much alike that I can honestly say we are mirrors for each other. You all use the term of mentor-mentee, which is basically true, but it goes much further than that. It was rapidly changing from a mentor-mentee to a brotherly friendship. The world has developed in such a cruel place that I feel it's necessary to show the love that life is made of. It's not about the hardships and catastrophe, it's about love. And the way you spread love is very important. how your life will be. And that's all mentoring is. Spread love.
We've got a saying, given to the game, man. And so now I'm at a position, so much has been given to me, and now it just comes natural for me to give it back. I currently have a few mentees that are in my lives, and we have a wonderful relationship.
See, what they want you to do, they want you to take some initiative on your own to follow through on that stuff.
I have one young man that's in my life. He has dreams of being a professional football player, and I used to be a heck of an athlete at one time myself, so I can relate to where he's coming through. He was having some problems in school, so I've had the opportunity to fill in for his father, because his father lives out of town, to go to the school with him and talk to the teachers and help him in his grade, and he passed this year, because I would like to think of the relationship and the trust that we have in one another.
You know, I think a lot of people got some real skewed ideas about guys who have been to prison and stuff. And I think that it's really interesting that we're here today. On a Monday morning, there's 4 ex-cons sitting at a Bible study, you know. I'm talking to Tad in the microphone. How is the Tad of talking doing?
It sounds great.
I feel like I'm some kind of outlaw that God just loves and uses to his benefit, which is fine. But my walk with Christ is a struggle sometimes. Like the song I wrote, Living the Life of a Bad Boy. It says I never listened to my teachers, they never had nothing to say.
I never listened to my teachers, they never had nothing to say. I hated authority and everything that got in my way.
I still don't like authority. I don't like anybody telling me what to do. But you know what? That's honest. And not a lot of people will be honest.
The life of a bad boy.
But I think that God is carrying me.
I kind of liken my mentee-mentor relationship sort of like how Alpha was there for me. It would be like I would reach in my pocket and help them out. It was the same thing with Alpha. Not once did they ever shut the door on me. And so as a result, I can't shut the door on these men and women that I talk to and that God has put into my life to see it into. And that's something that I will forever be grateful for, because with that stuff that they allowed me to do, now I'm learning how to give it to other people.
I think it's a beautiful time of the year when they come and put all the flags out in memory of all our soldiers, our fallen soldiers. You know, not going through being able to be there for his final burial, you know, that was torture. That was just hell on earth for me. But I had support from the volunteers. I had support from my fellow Christian brothers. I am truly blessed. I can look back now and see how God has had his hand in my life throughout my life, and I never really totally realized it. I don't ever want to depart from that straight and narrow road. It's not going to be easy, and it hasn't been easy, but I know now that God is there for me. He's there with me. And no matter what comes my way, he's going to see me through it. I just thank God. And again, that's why I say I don't want to forget the things I've learned while I was in prison, because I don't want to forget what the Lord has done for me.
Then I found Jesus. Jesus set me free. I'm no longer in prison. I've got liberty. He picked me up and he dusted me off and gave me a brand new me. I'm not living the life of a bad boy. Everybody loves me.